Hello and welcome to the Inside Vancouver Public Schools podcast. I'm Steve Webb, Superintendent of Vancouver Public Schools. Among the many wonderful things about Vancouver is the way that this community works together to take care of people. Public schools are part of a constellation of public and private organizations, businesses, and groups that collectively support those who are vulnerable. This episode focuses on one of the stars of this work, the Council for the Homeless. This nonprofit works tirelessly in our community to prevent and end homelessness. In the last school year alone, their work served 1,500 VPS children and their families. Vancouver Public Schools has partnered with Council for the Homeless for nearly a decade. We're so grateful for their work and inspired by their vision. Here's our conversation. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Inside VPS podcast. I've got three rock star guests who have joined me for this episode. First, Kate Budd. Kate is with Council for the Homeless. She serves as the executive director, and Kate just recently received the Columbia River Region Washington Association of School Administrators Community Leadership Award. So Kate, congratulations. Thank you for your partnership and your leadership on behalf of children and families in Vancouver who are experiencing homelessness. We also have Melissa Newhouse. Melissa serves as our homeless and foster care liaison. So Melissa, thank you for joining us. And then last is Tamara Shoup. Tamara serves as our executive director of school support services and really provides strategic leadership in building out our community schools initiative. And as you may know, our community schools have grown from 2 to 20 in the past decade. The number of partnerships that exist in Vancouver supporting children and families in need now is in the neighborhood of 200. Our community schools work really is about the village, schools, families, and community interacting as partners to strengthen opportunities for kids to learn and grow. Fundamentally, it's about reducing barriers to students' success in our classrooms and schools. So again, thank you for joining us. Here's the first question, and I'm going to pitch this over to Kate. Kate, some of our listeners may not be familiar with the many ways that the Council for the Homeless supports students and families. Would you take a moment to just provide an overview of all that the council does?
Sure, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. And I'm so appreciative of the award as well. So the Council for the Homeless is a local nonprofit agency that focuses on preventing and ending homelessness throughout Clark County. We do that through three focus areas, which includes leadership. We are the coordinating body around homelessness here in Clark County. That means that we support the primary funders of different homeless programs like the City of Vancouver and Clark County, as well as federal governments and the state with policy work, planning, working to increase equity among the many programs that we have in the community, and working to make sure that it's addressed in a collaborative manner across our community. We also provide advocacy at all levels of government and are focusing right now on increasing tenant rights and reducing barriers to housing, especially now as the state legislative session is happening. And then we also provide many different types of direct services through our solutions focus. We run the Housing Solutions Center, which is the coordinated entry and access here in Clark County. And what that means is anyone who is in need of emergency shelter, longer term housing programs, or just general affordable housing can give us a call or check out our website and can learn how to be connected with available opportunities, as well as to learn more about the eligibility process. We have culturally specific programs for BIPOC communities, as well as the LGBTQ community. We have veterans programs for seniors, as well as our wonderful school programs.
Terrific, Kate. Thank you for sharing a bit of the background, scope of work. You're busy. We've seen a significant increase in the number of students and families in Vancouver Public Schools that experience homelessness during the course of a school year. Certainly, that's been amplified by the pandemic. Melissa, could you talk a little bit about the increase in the number of VPS students in recent years and how the pandemic has affected the scope of your work?
Absolutely. Just congratulations to Kate. I want to just say that real quickly. Our numbers in the past few years have increased dramatically and exponentially. A lot of this has been due to the lack of affordable housing in our community. And this conversation that we're having today couldn't come at a better time when you speak to the scope of what's happening now with the pandemic. What we're seeing in our homeless population and our transitional students is we're not able to find them right now. They're disappearing. They're getting lost. And without the community partnerships that we have in place already, from the schools to places like Council for the Homeless, we would not be able to find these families. And so that has changed a lot. And it's really, really brought my program, or our program, real close in with all of our community partners, because we have to work together. It takes a village, like you said, to get these students identified. And it's taking a lot of outside sources to find these students. And Council for the Homeless is one of our huge assets in doing this, for sure.
I think this past year we had nearly 1,000 students in Vancouver that experience homelessness during the course of a single year. And that is really impactful. At the end of the day, if a child does not know where they will sleep tonight, that will impact their ability to learn. And we've seen the impact of the pandemic just amplify some of the unique remote challenges. If you don't have a home, how do you access remote learning? Right.
Something that's really kind of an eye-opener this year because of the pandemic is, out of our total population right now of students that have been qualified under McKinney-Vento who are living in a transitional situation, 21% of our total is unaccompanied youth, which is a huge, huge percentage. And that has grown hugely the past few years. But we've seen the biggest increase this year because of housing situations. They're being asked to leave their homes. Parents don't know what to do, so they're leaving them with relatives and friends. And we have some great examples I can share later on regarding, an unaccompanied youth and the experience that she's had, this year with the pandemic and with the help of Council for the Homeless, but I could share that later.
Yeah, couch surfing from home to home, that does not create the kind of stability that our young people really need to be successful in any context, but certainly in this remote learning context really makes it challenging. Tamara, talk a little bit about our partnership with Council for the Homeless, and how does that fit into our strategic work around community schools?
Our community schools initiative is really about recognizing and alleviating the barriers that kids face when they're coming to school. Everything from homelessness to food insecurity, the need for clothing. We try and rally around with our community partners to address those barriers. Housing is critical to that. If we expect kids to come to school every day ready to learn, they really need to have a place that they feel safe at home to reconnect and recharge. And so it is critical in our system that we have these partnerships like Council for the Homeless to be able to navigate those housing needs and utilize the resources we have in the community.
Yeah, thanks, Tamara. Kate, why is supporting students and families a special focus of the council? Why is that important to your organization and to you?
Sure. So I think that the points you made regarding how challenging it is for both younger kiddos and youth who do not have their basic needs met to be able to learn is really what motivates the Council for the Homeless and myself to want to work closely with our schools and particularly with our family community resource centers. We know that when kids are in crisis, their basic needs aren't met, that they're not in a place to be able to learn. And we also know then that that will make it even more challenging for them to thrive as they continue to grow and enter into the workforce and become adults. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help support them and their families so that they have an opportunity to be ready to learn. We also are seeing that play out due to COVID. Like Melissa mentioned, it's just much more difficult to both find families and youth who are struggling. And so working more closely with our community partners has helped us be able to identify, who has the pulse on this particular family that we're worried about, or that particular family or youth. And so we've been working much closely together. And that's also a part of our motivation is when we have partners who are working with us, we all want to help and be able to move that family out of homelessness and into stability. So it's just incredibly important, and we're fortunate to have so many strong partners and just dedicated staff who selflessly, want to make sure that families have what they need.
Yeah. Thanks, Kate. Melissa, what are some examples that you've seen of students who were positively impacted and helped by the council?
Well, this year we have quite a few, but one that sticks in my head we've been working a lot with is a young girl who left a situation that was very unsafe in her home. She couch surfed and she lived in a tent in a park. We were able to get her in at the WHO shelter when that opened. And through council, we got her through Janus Youth, and she is now being housed in a hotel until they can get her into her apartment. It takes a village. It took all of us to get her to that point. And, like Kate said, to piggyback on what she said, it takes, we have to go very, very down deep and make sure basic needs are met before the student can start learning well. Do they have a place where they can do their homework? Are they coming to school or doing their homework on the side of the street? We want to make sure that we have access to places to produce those positive outcomes. With this particular student, she's an outstanding student, and her teachers and the staff have been, really supportive and have also helped us with this. But without getting her through those processes with council, she wouldn't be where she's at right now, which is phenomenal. That we're going to have a graduate, and she's a senior, so we're going to have a graduating senior this year. So it's pretty awesome.
That's a terrific story. It's really Maslow before Bloom on the hierarchy of needs. We've got to attend to those basic needs that unfortunately for too many of our children and youth, their environmental context has not set them up to have as much success as they could. And it's really the kind of relationships and partnerships that we have cultivated collectively as a community to attend to every child, regardless of race, regardless of zip code, in an effort to really lift all students up. I often say our community schools work really isn't about a handout, it's about a hand up, right?
Well,
Tamara?
Can I add really quick to that?
Sure, yeah.
That, you were talking about this hierarchy, and just something I'd like to kind of recognize is that even within the district, it's this hierarchy. It starts in my office where we might be identifying the student, and then it's moved on to the schools, to our FCRCs, to our meeting with who are hands-on right there in the office with these families. And we are all together spreading out these resources. So, I mean, it's literally going from the bottom up in all different processes.
Yeah. Tamara, talk a little bit about the broader impact of these kind of relationships and partnerships in the Vancouver community, and really the manner in which our community schools work has served as a catalyst for that collective impact.
the community schools initiative is really focused on creating those healthy, safe environments for kids to learn. That's in the school and that's also in the neighborhood. And one of the ways that these partnerships, like with Council for the Homeless, have impacted our ability to address the health of the community is in creating more stability in those neighborhoods. Last year, we were able to address the housing needs for 1,500 children in our schools. That's just a fraction of what Council for the Homeless is doing in those school neighborhoods to make sure that where they live, where they play, and where they learn is safe and healthy. And during the pandemic, as we all know, home became the classroom, right? And the neighborhood became the social connections.
Mhm.
So making sure that when they're walking down the street in their neighborhood, they have a place where everyone is sheltered and everyone is safe. That creates a better social community, healthy community for everyone in our school neighborhoods.
Kate, you've been described as working tirelessly to secure affordable housing and build relationships with landlords to rent to families experiencing homelessness and economic hardship. What makes you so darn passionate about this work?
Well, I first want to say that a great deal of the credit goes to my amazing and dedicated staff, many of whom really do know the challenges of trying to learn without having their basic needs met, and therefore incredibly empathetic and dedicated in the work that they do. For myself, I actually began my career in social work over 20 years ago, working as an AmeriCorps member in school districts in Oregon and also in high schools. And during that time, it quickly became crystal clear to me that when students' needs were met, and particularly the needs that they identified for themselves, that they were able to move forward and learn and succeed astronomically well. And that really continues to be on the forefront of my mind as I continue here as the head of the Council for the Homeless and through other roles throughout my career. I had a fifth grade student named Marco who I never have forgotten. And he was hyper focused on his dirty clothes. He never wanted to be near other kids. He sat alone during recess. And my job was so flexible in that I had time to just sit down with him and get to know him and learn more about, what was motivating him to not interact with other kids. And ultimately, it was that he was teased so relentlessly about his dirty clothes. He felt like it was a better choice for him to just sit by himself. And so I had the opportunity to procure a washer and a dryer for our school and to work with his mom and other moms to come in, bring their laundry and get the laundry done. And something as simple as having a regular place for laundry to be done for Marco and his family changed his entire trajectory, at least for that year when he was in third grade. And he started to succeed and interact with kids and interact with myself and other staff in a much more positive way. And so it's experiences like that that I take with me, and that fuels my interest in making sure we're working collaboratively to do everything we can to support families and youth.
Amen. Amen, Kate. I have to tell you, this community schools work fundamentally is about transforming student trajectories, right? Intervening with supports that accelerate student achievement, close achievement and opportunity gaps, and get more kids across the finish line prepared for college, careers, and life. It is fundamentally an equity and excellence for all vision. And I just want to thank you so much for the passion that you bring to this work and the authenticity in lifting up children and families that are experiencing homelessness and poverty. Melissa, I want to thank you too for joining us and for your commitment to connecting and resourcing supports to the children and youth of our school system. And certainly, Tamara, I want to thank you for your undying commitment to scale our community schools work in Vancouver Public Schools. So thanks for joining Inside VPS podcast. You all take great care. Be safe. My thanks to Kate, Melissa, and Tamara for being part of this conversation. I am deeply grateful for the many incredible people involved in this work, including our HOPE and FCRC staff members, VPS employees around the district, the Council for the Homeless staff, volunteers, partner organizations, and many more groups working together to support people throughout Clark County and beyond. Our entire community benefits. And thank you for joining me for this episode of Inside VPS. Take care.